They say I am a conviction, a product of my addiction, responsible for my eviction into this world of restriction. They say I'm society's affliction, who received its benediction in the criminal courts of crucifixion because of my depravity and dereliction. They say I'll spend the rest of my life in constriction, driven by my antisocial predilections, culminating in a final act of infliction that led me to this jurisdiction. But I say I am a contradiction. I am not this criminal depiction, and I will use my words and my diction to make a positive prediction. My salvation will not be science fiction. I will own my own nonfiction. I am more than the coefficient of friction betwixt my mother's submission, my father's emission, and my lifetime of omission. As a young artist, I was drawn to doing work for marginalized community. As I grew into a mature artist, I was drawn to doing artistic work with marginalized communities. The change of the preposition for to the preposition with has made all the difference in my creative life. I'm an artist who does artistic work that is therapeutic. I'm not a therapist who does mental health work that's artistic. And I never forget the difference. As an artist, I have come to know three deep human truths. One, human beings are social creatures who need community. Unless a human being has serious mental health challenges that lead to isolations, he must have a tribe to which he belongs. Two, human beings can learn from their past if they are able to explore it through the process of reflection. Three, human beings are narrative creatures who need story, even with mental health challenges. A human being must have story and the tools to be able to speak it. Using these three deep human truths, I created Shakespeare Behind Bars in 1995 in an adult male, medium security prison in Kentucky. Entering the world of the American industrial prison complex can be likened to entering Dante's Divine Comedy. All hope abandon, ye who enter here. But Shakespeare Behind Bars is the antithesis of this credo because it offers hope within a safety of a circle of trust. Tribe. A Shakespeare Behind Bars restorative circle of reconciliation is built on the most prized core values that each member of the circle of trust has pledged to honor. Words like compassion, courage, dignity, empathy, fairness, forgiveness, grace, honesty, honor, humility, inclusivity, integrity, justice, kindness, mercy, nobility, non-judgment, redemption, repentance, respect, trust, truth, and unconditional love. I am the caller of the circle. I sit as an equal amongst all who sit on the rim. When a question emerges, I remain in contemplative silence until I can improve upon it. At the center of my personal circle, I place 4 questions. 1, who am I? 2, what do I love? 3, how will I live my life knowing I will die? 4, what is my gift to humankind? I embrace the key precepts of our Shakespeare Behind Bars collective agreement. I choose to speak in the I rather than the collective we. Embrace hope rather than expectation. Labor to fix myself rather than attempt to fix others. Live in invitation rather than demand. Share my personal story of suffering and shame rather than offer advice. Be inclusive in my thinking rather than exclusive in my thoughts. Offer non-judgment rather than condemnation. Extend justice seasoned with mercy rather than justice seasoned with revenge. Seek deeper questions rather than superficial answers. Do not walk behind me. I may not follow. Do not walk in front of me. I may not lead. Walk beside me, that we may be as one. Albert Camus. In the safety of our circle, I can remove my mask of protection. In the safety of our circle, I can hold the mirror up to myself and see who I really am. In the safety of our circle, I can choose not to be my injustice. In the safety of our circle, I can live into who I want to be. In the safety of our circle, I can sit in silence. In the safety of our circle, I can look into the eyes of my brothers and sisters. In the safety of our circle, I can touch my deepest self. In the safety of our circle, I can reveal all my truths. In the safety of our circle, I can face my deepest fear. In the safety of our circle, I can give breath and words to my deepest shame. In the safety of our circle, I can weep for my agony and the agony of others. In the safety of our circle, my heart can crack open to let the light in. In the safety of our circle, I can find the compassion to forgive those who hurt me. In the safety of our circle, I can find the empathy I need to love the whole world. And in loving the whole world, I can love myself. In the safety of our circle, I can be at peace and in harmony with the world. In the safety of our circle, I can honor my ancestors, my family, my fellow human beings, and myself. In the safety of our circle, I can be of service to others. And in serving others, I serve myself. I come to the circle of trust to be awakened from my anesthetized state of indifference, to live in the rub of the tectonic plates of the lithosphere of human behavior, to learn to grieve for my losses, to find language for the suffering of my unexpressed trauma and shame, to listen deeply to others, to find myself in another's human being's story, to find the compassion I need to be the most empathic human being I can be. Reflection. In my effort not to be remembered for the worst things I've done, I examine my past to understand where I came from, what values were instilled in me as a child, and what experiences shaped me into who I am, who I was. Through understanding who I was, I come to understand why I am in my present situation. Through understanding why I am here, I take responsibility for my past. Through taking responsibility for my past, I live in the now. Through living in the now, I explore who I wish to become. To be or not to be? That is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles and by opposing end them. My journey is within. I travel the path to find my way through a perception of reality that I have constructed. On my life's journey, I arrive at a Y intersection to discover there are two divergent pathways. The pathway of construction, creativity, hope, or the pathway to destruction, futility, despair. At each obstacle I encounter on my chosen path, I arrive at another Y intersection to discover there are two divergent decisions. The decision populated by the better angels of my nature, or the decision populated by the lesser demons of my desire. The choice of which pathway I choose and which decision I make will determine my present moment as well as my future. Trauma, shame. When I experience trauma, shame, and I don't have language to express it, the trauma, shame lives on in me and has a direct connection to what is manifested in my behavior. All efforts to submerge my trauma, shame, fail. All efforts to ameliorate my trauma, shame, through numbing addictions, fail. It is only through finding language to express my trauma, shame, within the safety of a circle of trust that I begin to heal. Story. In the Shakespeare Behind Bars circle of trust, I explore art, theater, the collective works of William Shakespeare, as well as my own spoken word poetry, to explore what it means to be a human being. I use art because it is through art that I reveal my deeper human truths. Being a lifelong artist means I continue an ongoing aesthetic process to find my way to express my deepest human truths. I use theater as a tool to express these human truths because it most closely resembles real life in real time. Theater contains a direct connection to a live audience in the present moment. I use the collected works of William Shakespeare because he articulately and eloquently expresses the trauma, shame that I have suffered. When I find expression for my trauma shame in Shakespeare's language through mastering the tools of analysis it takes to truthfully express the depth of one of his characters, I'm able to apply those analytical tools to my own life story. In applying these skills to my own life story, I find the vernacular language I need to express my trauma shame. Finally, as an artist, I use my spoken word poetry to express the trauma and shame through my artistic aesthetic. Living in a world of regret begot a lifetime of regret, living on these mean streets, the geometry of wrong turns and dead ends. But that's a whole nother way of living. A roll of the dice, snake eye staring, two bad choices equal nothing but despair. Sight's been seen, horror's been felt, etched in blood on the walls of memory. An archaeologist is needed to crack the code of suffering. But that's a whole nother way of living. A prison bro say his hood was the block, and on his block there was nothing but them streets. But that's a whole nother way of living. A prison bro say his hood was the block, and on his block there were sidewalks that run along them streets. But that's a whole nother way of living. A prison bro say his hood was the block, and on his block there were alleyways that run along them sidewalks, that run along them streets. But that's a whole nother way of living. A prison bro say his hood was a trailer park, and there ain't no alleyways, and there ain't no sidewalks, just streets. And in those streets there are potholes that swallow up your car. But that's a whole nother way of living. A roll of the dice, snake eye staring, two bad choices equal nothing but despair. A prison bro confined to a wheelchair, his left body side paralyzed from a stroke. He look out on the world from his right eye. His left eye is covered with a black pirate patch because cancer took it. But that's a whole nother way of living. He say his only regret in life is that when his mother died, that his hands were not round her throat, choking the life out of her for what she did to him when he was a boy. How can a man want to kill his mama? But that's a whole nother way of living. A roll of the dice, snake eye staring, two bad choices equal nothing but despair. A prison bro say he'd been in misery for 3 years. His body racked with tumors, colon rupture, staph infections, blood clots, and medical treatments intended to save him, all trying so hard to kill him that he forgot the cancer will, because there ain't no cure. Tens of thousands of dollars of government money been spent to keep his body alive just so he can die in prison. Yet no matter how much he craved death, he cannot be the cause. Yet no matter how much he want to lash out to make others pay for his perceived injustices, he cannot be the cause. It makes his suffering all the more insufferable. He pretend that he not living a meaningless, anonymous death inside some cage, inside some cave, inside some corner, inside some prison. But that's a whole nother way of living. A roll of the dice, snake eye staring, two bad choices equal nothing but despair. A prison bro say he lost in his freedom from the cage. There, his wings were clipped and he couldn't fly, but his heart was light and his spirit flew. But that's a whole nother way of living. He thought he knew he was ready to go home. But where was home? Was it in the vast bosom of his family where he hadn't laid his head in 20 plus years? Was it in his wife who stood beside him and offered him sanctuary in her love? Was it in the children they conceived together who offered sanctuary in their love? Or was it in his 5-year-old son conceived with another woman while vacationing from prison, and his wife and their children who offered him sanctuary in his love? Or was it in the prison pen pal he met inside who offered him sanctuary in her love? Or was it in his sensei, his Daya sensei, his Toda sensei, his guru, his sage, his inquisitor, questioner, fellow, traveler, who offered him sanctuary in his love? Or was it in the broken places in his heart that gave love freely to others but took not the time to give a bit of love to himself? Or was it at the end of a pipe that he pressed to his lips and kissed deeply, a solution to his pain, and gave him the excuse he needed for his blatant disrespect and disregard for others, while living his reckless, thoughtless, wanton, wildly unrestrained existence, to rob and steal and plunder other people's property, violating their lives with a broken heart and a hardened soul? Or was it in the familiarity of prison, where he knew how to survive, in the state of being free, with liberty within confinement, behind razor wire, external control and restraint, in the bondage of regulations, confirmed slavery, where freedom from fear confirmed that he was a F-up, unworthy of love, and in the home he deserved to be? But that's a whole nother way of living. A roll of the dice, snake eye staring. Two bad choices equal nothing but despair. Prison brothers know the aloneness of loneliness. Waiting for Godot. They say he coming. I was built for running, but I dream of flying.